What happens after the final breath? Does consciousness dissolve into nothingness? Or does it pass through gateways beyond human comprehension? Welcome, spiritual traveler, to the mystery of mysteries. Today we explore one of Buddhism's most profound and enigmatic texts, the Bardo Thodol, widely recognized in the West as the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Picture a guide accompanying you through existence's deepest and most mysterious moments. This is the Bardo Thodol's role. This isn't merely a simple manual about life's end. It's a spiritual roadmap for what occurs immediately after death. Prepare yourselves, because together we'll cross this threshold, uncover its messages, and perhaps reach a deeper understanding of existence's meaning. The Bardo Thodol was created by Padmasambhava, a legendary figure in Tibetan Buddhism. Born in India, he's widely credited with bringing Buddhism to Tibet in the 8th century. The Tibetan tradition reveres him as Guru Rinpoche, meaning the precious teacher. But Padmasambhava wasn't just a monk. He was a profound spiritual master and yogi who mastered mystical techniques and esoteric teachings. The Bardo Thodol emerged from this teacher's desire to guide not only the living, but also the deceased, providing them a path to liberation even after the last breath. From childhood, Padmasambhava displayed extraordinary mystical abilities, recognized as a Mahasiddha, someone who reached an intense level of spiritual realization and developed spiritual powers considered miraculous. He was invited to Tibet by King Trisong Detsen, who sought to expand Buddhism and strengthen the country spiritually, unifying people under one belief system. At that time, Tibet was a place of intense shamanic practices and spiritual beliefs, strongly rooted in Bon religion, Tibet's indigenous spiritual practice. This diverse and even chaotic spiritual atmosphere presented challenges to Buddhism's spread. Upon arriving in Tibet, Padmasambhava faced resistance from various cultural and spiritual forces. Local deities and spirits of the Bon tradition opposed Buddhism, and Padmasambhava used his knowledge of magic and tantric rituals to tame these spirits. This integration of Bon deities and practices into Tibetan Buddhism was crucial for establishing a lasting spiritual foundation. Thus, Padmasambhava established Tibet's first Buddhist monastery, Samye, and began transmitting deep teachings about mind, reality, and the cycle of existence known as samsara. In Tibetan Buddhism, there's an understanding that death isn't the end, but a transitional state, a moment of openness to the possibility of spiritual liberation. Padmasambhava understood that at the moment of death, the mind enters a special state where it becomes more receptive to absolute truth, freed from the physical body's distractions. He realized this was a unique opportunity for liberation, but also knew that most people, when dying, become lost in illusions and fears that prevent them from this possibility. His mission was creating a guide that could be recited by those accompanying the dying, or even studied in life, so the mind would be prepared for the bardos, the transitional states after death. Essentially, he wanted to ease suffering and open doors to enlightenment, even when everything seems uncertain and dissolving. This compassion is the Bardo Thodol's foundation. He also knew that many might not achieve enlightenment in life, but saw death as a final opportunity, therefore providing instructions for practitioners and disciples to recognize the clear light, the mind's pure manifestation, at the moment of their death. The Bardo Thodol guides us through three main states, or bardos, that every soul crosses. First, Chikai Bardo, the moment of death. In Chikai Bardo, the soul experiences the moment of death itself, a transition point where the physical body dissolves and consciousness liberates from its material constraints. Once dissolution completes, the soul finds itself before the primordial clear light, described in the Bardo Thodol as brilliant, pure, and immense illumination. The clear light is a manifestation of the mind's absolute nature, a state of pure, unconditioned consciousness where no duality, fear, or attachment exists. Some know it as the higher self, others as the cosmic mind. There are many names for this state of perfection and infinite peace. For the spiritual practitioner, Chikai Bardo offers the possibility of ultimate liberation. If the soul can recognize the clear light as part of its essence, it achieves immediate liberation, nirvana, with no need to pass through other Bardo stages. This recognition doesn't depend on rituals or doctrines. It's a direct, complete experience of truth where the mind sees itself without filters or distortions. In this moment, all conditioning, karma, and identities dissolve. On the other hand, for those unprepared, the clear light's intensity can be terrifying. The mind, instead of recognizing the light as its true nature, may interpret it as threatening due to fear or attachment to the familiar. In this case, the soul retreats, loses the liberation opportunity, and enters the next Bardo stages where it increasingly faces distorted, limited visions according to its karmic tendencies. Second, Chonyid Bardo, the Bardo of Visions. As Carl Jung once said, gods and demons are projections of the unconscious, powerful and inescapable until understood as parts of ourselves. In Chonyid Bardo, the soul finds itself in a state of consciousness separated from its physical body and within a dimension where tangible boundaries no longer exist. Here, the soul experiences projections of its mind, projections that can appear as angelic forms and disturbing, terrifying visions. This Bardo reveals the mind's essence, where everything suppressed, desired, or feared appears in intensified form. The visions in Chonyid Bardo directly reflect the emotional and karmic states accumulated by the soul throughout life. They appear in two distinct forms: peaceful visions and wrathful visions. In the peaceful vision stage, the soul initially encounters visions of peaceful deities representing consciousness's enlightened and benevolent aspects. These figures may appear as Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, or light deities, emanating positive qualities the soul has cultivated. Peaceful visions possess a calm presence and provide a sense of peace. But for the unprepared mind, these visions may be overwhelming or incomprehensible, causing the soul to retreat and doubt this experience's reality. In the wrathful vision stage, if the soul doesn't recognize the peaceful, fundamental nature of the initial visions, it gradually faces more intense visions, known as wrathful deities. These figures are manifestations of anger, fear, and repressed desires, taking brutal and disturbing forms. Most importantly, these wrathful deities aren't external or malevolent entities, but expressions of the mind itself, reflecting emotions and attachments still binding the soul to the cycle of suffering. The Chonyid Bardo state is described as one where the mind frees itself from bodily constraints. It's a pure state of psychological manifestations, where everything is amplified. The arising visions resemble dreams, but unlike ordinary dreams, they carry remarkable clarity and vividness. This happens because the mind, now freed from the body, experiences its inner energies in an unfiltered way. Everything suppressed and accumulated appears with almost tangible force. These visions are considered opportunities for learning and enlightenment, as each represents an aspect of the self needing integration or transcendence. Those who maintain full awareness during this Bardo can realize that all these visions, good and bad, peaceful and wrathful, are merely mind creations. Recognizing this truth enables the soul to dissolve fear and achieve liberation. At this stage, the Bardo Thodol advises the soul to focus on the clear light, the mind's primordial essence, described as vast, pure radiance. Recognizing the clear light is the key to complete liberation, representing all beings' innate nature. It's the sun amid clouds of visions, the light remaining unchanged despite all mental projections. If the soul can see through the visions, it can achieve enlightenment and thus transcend the cycle of rebirth. However, recognizing the clear light isn't easy for the ordinary mind. For most beings, the visions are so real and filled with personal meaning that seeing beyond them becomes difficult. For this reason, the Bardo Thodol suggests spiritual practitioners train in life to detach from illusions and meditate on the mind's nature. With such practice, even when facing the intense visions of Chonyid Bardo, they'll be able to maintain focus on the clear light and find peace. Fear and attachment are the greatest obstacles to liberation. The visions, in their intensity, can provoke deep fear, especially the wrathful deities representing untamed aspects of the self. This fear creates a sense of separation, preventing the soul from recognizing the visions as parts of itself. The soul may want to escape these visions, or, through attachment, focus on some of them, especially peaceful visions, keeping it bound to samsara's cycle. To overcome this cycle, the soul must realize that visions are empty of reality. In Tibetan Buddhism, this concept is known as sunyata, or emptiness. The mind that remembers emptiness during the Chonyid Bardo can observe all visions but remain unattached, understanding them as merely temporary expressions of its own nature. Therefore, the Chonyid Bardo experience isn't punishment or purposeless suffering, but a revelation stage where the soul faces its mind's mirror. It's a test distinguishing those ready for liberation from those still needing rebirth to deepen their learning. Third, Sidpa Bardo, rebirth. In Sidpa Bardo, the final stage, the soul faces a crucial moment, choosing its next body, determined by accumulated energy of all actions, thoughts, and intentions. What we call karma. It seems as if the entire previous journey has led to this point, where what we carry within determines our next destination. Upon entering this bardo, the soul has already witnessed dissolution in Chikai Bardo and faced its projections and illusions in Chonyid Bardo. Now it finds itself in a state of greater psychological density where the desire for rebirth intensifies, driven by fears and attachments not yet overcome. This desire, as Tibetan Buddhism teaches, forces the soul to search for a new body, a new form of existence. In Sidpa Bardo, consciousness is influenced by karmic tendencies, which function as subtle traces left by past life actions. These traces work as magnetic forces, attracting the soul towards circumstances and experiences reflecting its inner state. For example, if the soul carries great fear, this fear may guide it toward rebirth, where it will face the same emotions. Similarly, intense desires and uncontrolled emotions create energy spirals, shaping the type of life the soul will face in the next cycle. During Sidpa Bardo, the soul encounters a series of visions connected to the rebirth process. These visions often include images of couples in union, metaphors for creating new life. Here, the soul is invited to choose a new body, unconsciously guided by emotional tendencies and karmic drives. In many descriptions, the Bardo Thodol suggests that upon seeing these images, the soul should maintain a state of detachment and clarity. Only then can it avoid blindly drifting into unwanted rebirth. For those who can maintain calm and detachment, Sidpa Bardo offers one final opportunity for transcendence. The possibility of not being reborn remains, choosing the path of liberation. This is the spiritual practitioner's goal. Instead of being reborn under the influence of illusions and attachments, they must realize these visions are manifestations of their minds, transient and empty by nature. Throughout Sidpa Bardo experiences, consciousness feels strong attraction to a new body. A process comparable, according to the Bardo Thodol, to a psychological storm. It seems as if the desire to continue existing, to be once again, becomes irresistible. Choosing a new form isn't a conscious choice. It happens through deep, instinctual calling, where rebirth characteristics are shaped by the mind state. It seems as if the next body mirrors what the soul's mind needs to experience or resolve. This selection process also reflects the Buddhist belief that each rebirth is an opportunity for spiritual growth. The body the soul chooses aligns closely with its karmic and spiritual development. However, many don't understand this opportunity.